Hi.
Hi, give me 1 second.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I just got off the phone with a friend
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Hindus and their support for Israel and Zionism and stuff like that. And I mean, she's kind of like me. I don't know if she's an ex-Hindu, but she's on the verge of it. And she's quite disgusted in them
Oh,
and
what
their
was
behavior.
happened to her?
Well, she just feels that in general they're bad company and that they're cowardly and that they're stupid and that um, they're a waste of time. And she feels a lot of them are nasty. And so she's just kind of lost hope in them, like I did. I lost hope and realized that, they don't have a structured understanding, of what their God is. So it's open to subversion by Noahidism, and it's not what I thought it was. It has some good ideas. I'm not saying that it doesn't,
Which
but
ideas do you like about Hinduism?
um I like well, that's the problem now, is that the Hinduism that I made up, or the Hinduism that is. The thing is that, I mean, I don't know, maybe some of the practices of yoga are good, like some of the actual physical exercises are good and stuff like that. Um, I guess not much. I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, the idolatry is pretty, I guess.
Well, I mean, I keep trying to keep it simple, and I just spoke to Robert Tate this morning, and he is of the view that Jews are responsible for immigration, etc. And I guess I have to tell him why I think it is not helpful to keep blaming them, because it could be just um, a ploy to make anyone who wants to complain about them kind of label themselves and as conspiracy theorists by women, because women easily get bored with conspiracy theories, and I guess when women reject them, they'll just double down and talk about it even more, digging themselves even deeper. And as regards Hinduism, it seems obvious to me that it's all based on the scripture, and how Judaism uh, stands tall, you know, above all the other religions, is because they're the first ones. Jews are the first people who said, whether it's true or not, we're the ones with divine revelation, and our scripture comes from God. It is His word, and once you get that to that level of sophistication about getting authority for your scripture, um, the next thing is to say, oh, hey, our scripture comes from God too, but it's the final one. So there. And
So
this is,
there. Well,
yes.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't want to worship a God who like changes his mind like that, because you could dump the Muslims if you wanted to. You said it was, you were my people before, and you didn't really mean it, so he could do it
Well,
again.
he sort of did. He it's still true that Jews are still his people, and and they would still be doing what he made them as chosen people to do, even if they all converted to Islam. because their legacy would be, if anybody asks, oh, what happened to God's chosen people? And then the answer is they all converted to Islam, so you have to follow them there. It's that kind of narrative. So in a way, it's kind of God winning in the end. It's like, yeah, I didn't break my promise to you. I told you to be my chosen people, and you're supposed to be so clever because you were the first people to receive the Torah, and you couldn't work that out.
Yeah, no, the fact that he gave them something that wasn't going to work, just, this whole
Pride comes
tale.
before all. So
Why
the
would you,
Jews
why would
might.
you, why would you give people something that they can't do? What would be the point in that?
Because even Jews themselves have this narrative of before the disease, the cure exists because God in his compassion created the cure before the disease. And why didn't the Jews get it before? Because they were crippled by their sin of pride. They want to cling to the idea that their version of divine scripture is better than anything else. But if they were thinking, as they're so they're supposed to be so good at, they would work out, as any publisher would know, that the final edition trumps the first edition. Because it's always more authoritative, right? It just has more of the news. That's why newspapers, when they were, published twice daily, there would be the first edition and the final edition, the morning paper and the evening paper. I suppose I've forgotten all about that, but obviously the later version is supposed to be more contain more knowledge and information than the previous edition. But I suppose if you're a collector of books, you think the first edition is more probably rarer, I guess, if you're a book collector. But anyway, I mean, the logic is there. It's like, yeah, you go and try and be God's chosen people when you're only 1% of the people of humanity. You should know that you just wouldn't be able to do it. And you haven't been able to do it, and you haven't stopped those Christians from acquiring 3 global empires and starting 2 world wars. And if there's another world war, it will be started by Christians, and you haven't been able to stop them at all. So the only way to defeat the Christians is to join forces with the Muslims and say, Christians are idolaters, and they better stop, because what's holding Christians back is their idolatry, and the idolatry is not so much them bowing before idols and all that, but worshipping things that are weaker than they are. Because I mean the problem of idolatry is really that it's a fallacy, right? It's just stupid to worship anything that's weaker than yourself. So if you're an atheist, you're basically saying I worship my own opinions. And but actually you in theory have the power to change your opinions at any time, as soon as possible, the moment you know that you're wrong. I mean, it's only your pride that makes you deny that you were wrong. So you carry on pretending to believe in Christianity, and just making things worse for yourself, because while you pretend to believe in Christianity, you're not having the benefit of a religion that actually works to protect you and your group. And all religions, all the ones that you have heard of, the 5 world religions, once upon a time supported the institution of marriage. And we sort of know now. I mean, what you say about how horrible marriage is really why marriage was invented in the first place. Because people just didn't see why they should stick with one partner and do it in a different way. But when they did it a different way, it didn't really work for them. So all it took was for Homo sapiens, which is, I think just another branch of the Neanderthals, just to say, well, we're going to try things a different way. We're going to practice monogamy, and they did, and then they were just better organized than the nomadic Neanderthals. I mean, there is some, you can find stuff online that says that the Neanderthals were, although quite creative and inventive, they basically led a nomadic life. And because, the nature of a nomadic life is for everybody to travel around in groups. And I imagine when people discovered farming, they thought, well, we can't just be going round and round, eating stuff and moving on after we've used up the resources of a particular place. We'll settle down and farm. And once you have settled farming, men will think, well, obviously to run my farm, I will need lots of labor, and I need to have children, and I want my children to be mine and not the children of my wife's lovers. And I think that must have been how marriage evolved. After people thought, well, it's better to settle down and do our farming in settled communities rather than, be gypsies and nomads. I mean, so I'm not even, going to use a divine narrative. And obviously, with your study of cults, people need a narrative. They just need some story to tell them to keep being at themselves because they are better than other groups. So there's always some kind of foundational myth, to all religions.
Yes, which is unfortunate that people need that. Unfortunately, that's the problem, that people need the mythology, and that's where it just gets annoying, and that's why people don't, even they'll think maybe the laws are a good idea to a certain degree, but they'll reject the whole religion because they just don't feel like, why not just the secular government outlaw murder and theft? I mean, what's the point? That you need some god to be up in heaven that you can't see, that's going to punish you so that you don't murder and steal from each other? Is that the only way? Or is that...
Yes, because the idea, I mean, even Jews say it, we Jews, we let a policeman into our minds because we have to believe, absolutely believe in the existence of God who will punish us if, punish evil and reward good. And it's only when you absolutely believe that you will follow the laws. Because, otherwise you think, well, if nobody captures me, I'll get away with murder and theft and all kinds of things. So I guess people worked out that if somebody absolutely believed in God and the afterlife, they will follow the rules more willingly and for longer and more thoroughly than an atheist who only obeys in order to avoid punishment. And so in order to assure a higher standard of obedience, it would make sense to shame atheists. And
Yeah,
once upon a
well, I
time,
mean,
it was a
that's
bad thing to be an atheist, because then people would just shame you.
Yeah, well, I think the atheists have it right in that we don't know what the narrative is. I mean, to just come up with some narrative is annoying to an intelligent person, to just, oh, okay, someone came up with the narrative, so I'm just going to pretend to go along with it. Like, most intelligent people are just not going to want to do that. I mean, and so, yeah, and then
Have
all
I
your...
quoted Seneca to you? He was a Roman philosopher who said, religion is regarded by true as a people, necessary by the rulers, and untrue by philosophers, something like that.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, it's like, obviously the intelligentsia is always going to be against it. And then you have this divide, and you have the intelligentsia fighting the regular normie people all the time. And that's what we see, all these atheists with degrees and things like that.
No,
And
no,
they're
but
fighting.
it's not. Look, you're supposed to all believe it. I mean, that is the whole thing. The Jews in their history had different rules for each other. The Sadducees and the Pharisees, and they had their culture war because the Pharisees were kind of the ordinary people who said, "Oh, but the Torah says this, and you're not doing," and the Sadducees just didn't care about what the Torah said, because they already had their priestly privileges, and they were, I guess, living high on the hog, and they didn't really care about the people. And also there was a controversy about the Sadducees not believing in the afterlife.
Yeah, well, they got through it, and they weren't sitting
Well,
around murdering
they're no longer there. They're extinct.
Well, but that's only because that they didn't go extinct because they went extinct. They went extinct because the temple got destroyed, and then there was no community center around which they could do. But they weren't, in their period of time, they weren't murdering, killing, stealing, raping just because they didn't believe in the afterlife.
Well, the point is that his history tells us that the Sadducees didn't survive, and that rabbis are the descendants of the Pharisees.
Okay, yes, but that doesn't mean there's really an afterlife. I mean, maybe it helps people act better, but the thing is that an intelligent person is going to say, well, if I can't act better without believing in some imaginary afterlife, then maybe I just don't want to live. And that's why they don't have children. I just watched that thing, what's it called? That interview by, God, who's that British guy that promotes eugenics? And you sent me his interview. He's British, and it was about woke eugenics and how people. You said you watched it several times.
I'm not sure who you mean.
It's a British guy, and he was talking to another guy, and they were talking about how how liberalism brings in dysgenics, and how people with high mutational loads start taking over, and people with mental disturbances start taking over, and liberalism becomes big. He's a conservative who's into eugenics. He's a white guy, white British guy, brown hair. Anyway,
how old?
40s, 50s.
Oh, do you mean Ed Dutton?
Ed Dutton, yes. Ed Dutton. I can't even remember why I brought him up now.
You said he was. Well, he's supposed to be an anthropologist, and he will be theorizing about group evolutionary strategy and that kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, well, I can't remember. Oh, well, he said that IQ is negatively correlated with having children, and I guess if you want to have a religious society, then just let all your intelligent people just kill themselves, because then they won't come after you, and they won't want to live in a society like that, because they're too noble and intelligent to just say, I know what God wants, and this is what God wants. And they're just beyond, they are not unintelligent or ignoble enough to say they know what God wants. And if you just allow them to live, they're just going to pick apart the society. That's all they're going to do, and become enemies, and then spread atheism they do. And
okay, so I guess you that is why the prohibitions against idolatry and blasphemy are necessary in the no-id laws.
Well, then be at constant war with your intelligentsia. I don't know what to tell you. This sounds like a really unstable system, and it's proven to be unstable because it didn't last.
Yeah, because people forget, people acquire their empire, and they think they can, rest easy and break a few rules and lower standards here and there. And by the time the consequences come through, it's too late.
Well, then find another way, which is, where we separate. And if you went back, then the intelligentsia, there would just be constant fights between the intelligentsia and the nitwits, and they're not
There,
going to want to
there
believe.
wouldn't be if the top people sang from the same hymn sheet and agreed on the same moral system.
Yeah, but
And they would,
a lot of people get into power because they're intelligent, and if they're intelligent, they're not going to say, "Oh, you know what? I know what God wants, and I know who God is," because you can't know that. So why make something up?
because you can't disprove the Abrahamic God.
Okay,
You
but
can't say,
it's just made up. It's just a made up story that you don't have to believe in. So why believe in it?
well, because as I've said, if you believe in it, then your group will be more likely to obey these laws from generation to generation.
Well, maybe people would rather not live than live under a made up story. What if they just said, if humans can't exist without being Muslims, then I really don't want to be alive anymore. And then, that that could happen too, that people would just say if it's impossible to be alive without being a Muslim, then don't
Yeah, but
I'm
you're
not
falling
having.
into the trap, aren't you? So you're saying, I'd rather die than be Muslim, and then you go and kill yourself, and the Muslims go, yay, we won.
Well, I'm just saying that, but even that might start happening within their own society. Atheism is spreading in Islam very rampantly in Asia. I mean, it's they're having a problem in Saudi Arabia with atheism.
Well, it's all to do with MBS Mohammed bin Salman liberalizing. So he can, just go into reverse and say, we all have to believe in God in the proper way, and this is how we do it, and this is how we will punish you if you, blah blah. These rules can be easily changed and calibrated.
By who?
At the moment,
By people that don't want to do it, but you're acting like this is like, see, this is the Noahide program is at least going slowly, and it's like slowly taking over and has a liberal phase, and there's they have a program for this. It's not just okay, everybody get in line. It's like that's too jarring to take over right away.
well, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but I mean, obviously, the arguments have to be made, and I am making them, and I just don't see anything better. For people who want their country back, who are tired of the crazy, stupid, corrupt people in charge, they sort of know that they haven't got a bigger idea than religion, and a religion that worships the most powerful deity conceivable. I mean, that is why the Abrahamic God and the Abrahamic religions are top of the tree, because they have the narrative and they have the most powerful God. And even if just some of the people believe in it literally, it will be better than Hinduism or Buddhism, because you were saying that the Hindus don't have a coherent narrative, and actually the Hindus themselves don't really believe in it. So what happens if you don't really
No,
believe
I
it?
think they do. I think they do believe in. I think it's easy to believe in Advaita Vedanta. I think that's not a hard thing to believe in. It's not hard, and so many people believe it because it is so close to quantum physics. It's so close to quantum physics that you have to really dig deep to find the differences. But Advaita Vedanta, especially when you learn quantum physics, seems to be true. It's not hard to believe.
But okay, what has quantum physics got to do with the laws of God?
Advaita Vedanta is not the laws of God. It's about the nature of reality, and it's not
Okay,
that.
well, but that's mumbo jumbo.
It's not mumbo jumbo. If it looks so close to quantum physics, it can't be mumbo jumbo. There has to be something to it. But
You can't explain it, and you've admitted before that you don't
I
understand it
I
yourself.
okay, I can't, but that doesn't mean that scientists don't fall for it because it's so believable. That doesn't mean that people who are more educated than me don't fall for it because it's so believable and become so dedicated to it because it's so believable. It's certainly more
Well,
believable
scientists are
than
not philosophers.
it's well, yes, but it's so close to science that they think it's science. I mean, it's not hard to believe in Vaidya Vedanta when you understand high levels of reasoning and high levels of science. It's not like snake oil. It's an actual kind of like system of thinking that's not that far off from reality. So no, it's not hard to not believe in that.
But it doesn't help you about, the laws that your group are supposed to follow, that's supposed to make you, more
No,
powerful
but
than other groups.
yeah, but I'm disagreeing with you that Hinduism is so hard to believe. I just, it's not, especially when,
But your friend was saying she didn't do that. She was saying that she thought Hindus were stupid and vicious.
well, they are, but that doesn't mean that Advaita Vedanta is hard to believe. That doesn't mean that. Those are two different things.
But the point is that you can't explain this Vedanta thing.
I know, but it's obviously if just because, okay, I don't understand quantum physics, but I'm not going to say it's hard to believe just because I don't understand it. I'm not
Okay,
going.
but you kind of need to understand the thing that you're supposed to believe, or you just won't be able to follow the rules. Yes.
Well, we're not talking about rules. We're talking about people believing in their religion, and I think yes, Hindus actually do believe in their religion because it's like a system of thinking and a system of logic rather than, it's a system of logic, not.
Yes, it is a system of logic. So I'm trying to explain to you that the two forms of thinking, there is deductive reasoning and there's inductive reasoning. So inductive reasoning is you collate information and then it's what's called this sort of black swan event thing. So you look at swans, they all seem to be white, and you think that then you start thinking that all swans are white until you see a black one. But that is empiricism, which is the scientific methodology. So centuries ago, people cottoned on the idea of saying, well, we're going to, we want to reject religion. How can we reject religion? We're going to say, well, we haven't seen God appearing anywhere. We'll believe it when we see him. So that was how it was. It must have been how Enlightenment thinkers deny God. Like, well, we don't see him, so we don't think he exists. And if you if you think any different, it will prove to us that God exists. We'll believe it when we see it. So that's scientific thinking, called empiricism, and theologians, I imagine, would have a different form of reasoning, saying we are here because there was a creation. Because there was a creation, there must have been a creator, and that creator must have been the Abrahamic God.
Well, it didn't have to be the Abrahamic God, but it could have been any god that was of that nature outside space-time. You know what I mean? And who knows?
But yes, I understand. But you could say, I suppose you could argue with that position by saying, how do you know it's the Abrahamic God? The Abrahamic God is the most powerful being conceivable. And obviously, if you want to believe in a religion, you would want to worship the most powerful God. But how do you know that the Abrahamic God exists? Could it be that the God that created the universe has died? Or, you could, create some kind of narrative along those lines. And then the Jews will say, no.
Or it could have just been a different god with different rules. You know what I mean? It could have been a different god with different rules.
yes, you could say, well, yes, God created us, but maybe that God is evil, yes, or illogical, or that there's something not quite right with him, because he's not the Abrahamic God, because the Abrahamic God is omnipotent, omniscient, supreme, unique, and perfectly moral. So we have the choice of believing in the most powerful being conceivable, or this sort of halfway house kind of God who, gets a bit confused from time to time and contradicts himself and doesn't know everything and may even be dead. So
Well,
we make a choice. We make a choice to believe in him, and I guess politicians think, well, it's even if God doesn't exist, it would be useful for our country, for our society, for people to believe in it, because only with this kind of belief would they be more likely to obey the laws and defend the principles of their religion. So, and whoever's in charge would just go around making sure that the mainstream position is to believe in the Abrahamic God, and otherize and marginalize those who were atheists or heretics or dissidents. So I guess that was how politics operated. But it's not irrational. I mean, the thing is, even if you don't like Islam, I mean, it's still a fact that Islam has been around for 1400 years. I mean, you
yeah,
can
but I
say,
wouldn't
oh,
want to
but
live under
Christianity
it.
has been. Hmm?
But I wouldn't want to live under it.
Well, maybe it wouldn't be as bad as you think.
Well, I know I don't want to go live in Pakistan or anything like that.
Well, you might be okay living in Malaysia.
Well, just because they're not really following the rules or that they're less Muslim or have a mixed culture doesn't mean that I want Islam to, I don't want Islam in any kind of potent form anywhere. And, people point to it, oh, look at it in its non-potent form. It's not that bad. Well, yeah, that's its non-potent form.
Okay,
You know,
so how? Okay, its potent form would be Iran, I suppose, because Iran is the most powerful Islamic republic in the world. We know it to be so because America wants to start a war with it. And do you know any Persians?
can you hold on 1 second?
Okay. Thank you for coming. Nice to see your comments in the chat. I don't even know what time the eclipse is. When is it? Oh, what do you mean MIA last night? David was MIA last night. Yeah, I know there wasn't a week in review. Do you know the reason? Paddy Irishman says in Islamic countries, women are more educated than the men. Birth rates are falling rapidly. It would take at least a generation to roll back liberalism. Which Islamic country are you talking about? And then he continues, even alcoholism is a problem in Islamic countries now. Which Islamic country?
Hello, I'm back.
What happened? You were kind of you sounded concerned about something.
Yeah, one of my birds was stuck, and I thought it was stuck in a bad way, but it wasn't that stuck, so it was fine.
Mm.
My little birds are so cute.
Mm-hmm.
let's just hope, you know, we always hope nothing bad happens to them. One of them is not. So a I have an African redheaded finch, and I had a female, and the female died, and he's become very, 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 very depressed, and he stays in the nest all day, and he doesn't come out, and he's eating too much now, which is a bad sign that either he has very bad depression or he's getting sick, and so I'm worried about him. But he's so lonely. So the other ones, the society finches, had babies, and he's lonely, and he latched onto them. He latched onto the babies, and he wants to be with the babies all the time. And so he stays in the nest, but then it's hard to see the babies in the nest because he's so big. And you know, he's been having a hard time. And I was having to separate him a little bit to give the babies some rest so they could get fed. And he would get very sad and chirp very sad. And I feel very bad for him. I keep looking for a female for him. I'm looking for a female everywhere I can for him, but I just can't find one.
But surely there are other females. You have, what, 30 birds or something?
No, he's a different kind than the rest of them.
Oh, a different species.
Yeah, he's a different species. That's why he's so much bigger.
But he's a finch, isn't he?
Finch, big African redheaded.
Oh, right. Oh, you said you were trying to get him a mate, and there weren't enough of them or something.
I can't find one for him, but he's very upset, and he's latched onto the babies.
And is he? Are the chicks' parents kind of? Are they bothered about him kind of taking over?
Yeah, they are, and it's a little bit of a. But the babies are almost all fully grown, and they're coming out of the nest now. So but it's cute. They still like to. They've watched them too, so they like to be around them.
Can we see them?
Yes.
Oh, good. Let me do the thing that allows you. What do I do? No, that's not what I want to do. Can never work out. Okay. Solo layout. That's right.
Okay. Let's see if I can get them without. Okay. Okay, there in that nest at the end, you can see the little baby poking his head out. I don't know if you can see his little head there.
On the left. On the left?
Yeah, on the left. You see the baby poking his head out?
Sort of, yes. Yes.
And then right in there with him is another big bird. The name here, there, now you see him, right?
Oh, yes, I see him now, the redhead.
The redhead, that's the redheaded finch, and he's in there with the baby society finch. He's in there with the baby society finch. And the other baby, where's the other baby?
What, it's sibling?
There he is, right there in the center. You can see his breast is still a little bit bare. He has a patch on his breast. He's brown, white belly. He's on the orange perch right here in front. He just jumped into the nest.
Oh, yes, he's gone back into the nest.
Yes, he's jumped into the nest, and now they're all together.
But what about their parents?
We don't know who the parents are because they're society finches, so they all breed freely.
Oh, okay. So they all have sex with each other, and they okay.
We don't know who the parents are, so it's not like other kind of birds where they pair off and you know who the parents are.
Okay. So the red head was looking after them.
Yes, the redhead is looking after them. They're both in with red. Yeah, they both they're getting attached to him too. They like him and he likes them, and I hope that, I don't know if they're gonna be able to stay in the nest with him always like that. I want him to have
But
a
what?
friend.
Right. But I mean, do the parents of the chicks try and seek access to their own chicks?
Yes, they do. They have to feed them because he doesn't feed them. So
Oh, he
they
just
have to,
sits with them.
yeah,
Okay.
he just sits with them. But it's difficult to feed them, and sometimes they have to come out of the nest now to get fed. So, it's, I just, I hope that they're getting food. He seems okay. The littlest one, he seems a little weak. There's a little one. And then we have these very little small birds called orange waxbills. They're very tiny. And they were picking on him because he's so small. And they must be used to being the smallest ones. So after finding someone to pick on, they were picking on him.
Mm-hmm. Somebody made a
Yeah.
comment about you. I don't know what. I don't know its significance. Do you know what the joke is?
What does it say?
It's Holger Ritter says, sometimes I believe that Mr. Bruno is a follower of Ramana Maharishi.
I don't know. I don't know what it's supposed to mean. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, that sounds like a Hindu guru, and she's probably trying to be nasty. They're probably trying to be nasty to me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which is fine. They can be nasty to me all they want.
Mm-hmm. Well, Paddy Irishman says that there is feminism in Saudi Arabia and Turkey. And yeah, so they can change the laws, you know, of women in technical fields if they want. I mean, these things can easily be done overnight, really. And how are we to know whether any group is happier or more depressed than the previous one? I mean, I I think the only way to judge a society's happiness would be to um, collate statistics on divorce or suicide or crime, murder, whatever. I think that would be a way of measuring the success of your policies. Would you agree, Vincent?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's not all going to work because if you live in a society where society is acceptable, more people will do it. If you live in a society where it's not acceptable, less people will do it. And, so it's not all perfect like that. Um, in a society where you have gun control, you'll have less gun shootings, right, than in a society where you have no gun control. So, I don't know if it's 100% accurate to say that, all of these indicators tell you who's happy or not, but I think that, yeah, they probably help a little bit. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I mean, it's sort of easier to tell which sex is happier by collating the statistics on suicide. So if more men are committing suicide, then you know that more men are unhappy than there are women. But obviously,
Well, but also women might be able to bear with it better. You know what I mean? It might be not that maybe women can bear with it better than men can. And I think that's true. I think women, everyone always says women can bear, and it is true. Women can bear with more. They can, they have to give birth, for God's sake. So, they're able to tolerate more stress and pain, I think, than a man can. I think, everyone knows it's very well known in nursing and stuff that women are able to tolerate pain more than men.
yes, and I suppose if you already think of yourself as kind of low status, then you're just sort of grateful for little things. But imagine if you were a king forced to live like a tramp. you'd sort of kill yourself within the first day, probably, because you can't bear the, indignity of it. But if you were kind of living as a tramp for years already, one more day of living like a tramp won't kill you. So it's all about the mindset of the person involved. And I think the idea of humility is important in making us put up with all kinds of crap, I suppose. Because obviously a narcissist will find it very difficult to, put up with being told off by anyone. But a humble person will not think too much about being humble.
Yes,
And
unfortunately.
Well, maybe fortunately, because if you're humble, then you're more likely to listen to people and be amenable to reason and sound arguments. Well, if you're proud, then even if something is obviously true, you're going to deny it because you believe the other way for a long time, and you're not going to admit that all this time you were mistaken. So you will probably double down and for example, claim that Christianity is a superior religion because it's a religion of your ancestors. But I'm saying this whole idea of a living God can be reconciled with the answer to the question of why God allowed Christianity to flourish when he must have disapproved of it. And I'm saying, maybe God has a plan. Maybe God said, let them acquire the 3 global empires, and then they'll start imploding. And when they begin to implode, there is a new religion called Islam that will solve all their problems. We'll just see if they're capable of correcting themselves, or whether they're going to do this "I'd rather die" kind of thing.
I just got the book Against Our Better Judgment. Have you heard of it? It's pretty famous.
Who by?
By Alison Weir. The Hidden
Isn't
History.
it a novel?
No, Against Our Better Judgment, The Hidden History of How the U.S. was used to create Israel.
Oh, have you got it? Is it in your hot little hands, or are you thinking of ordering it, or what?
No,
I've heard
I
of
have it.
Alison Weir.
I heard it. What is that phrase that you just used? Is it in your middle hand?
In your hot little hand.
Oh, your hot little hand. No, I have it in my hand, and it's
Okay.
soon after World War II. U.S. statement Dean Acheson warned that creating Israel on land already inhabited by Palestinians would imperil both Americans and all Western interests in the region. Despite warnings such as this one, President Truman supported establishing a Jewish state on land primarily inhabited by Muslims and Christians. Few Americans today are aware that U.S. support enabled the creation of modern Israel. Even fewer know that U.S. politicians pushed this policy over the forceful objection of top diplomats and military experts. As this work demonstrates, these politicians were bombarded by a massive pro-Israel lobby effort that ranged from well-funded and very public Zionist organizations to an elitist secret society whose members included Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis. Against Our Better Judgment brings together meticulously sourced evidence to illuminate a reality that differs starkly from the prevailing narrative. It provides a clear view of history that is key to understanding one of the most critically important political issues of our day.
Well, the ADL mention her in unflattering terms.
Oh, they did.
Yes. Alison Weir has established herself as a prominent voice in the anti-Israel movement. She frames the Jewish state as a violent aggressor in the region and ... No, but I'm just saying, any global empire would want a slice of Israel's ass. The Ottoman Empire, obviously, and and before that it was the Roman Empire, and after that it was the British Empire, now the American Empire. Israel is their billionaire's yacht, their status symbol, their football club, or maybe even their their white elephant. But I don't think it's a white elephant. When you think of the fact that Israel has access to the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, come on, for geopolitical reasons, it's invaluable to any marine empire, and America is a marine empire. So obviously, the American Empire would clamp down on anybody criticizing Israel, and the quickest way to do it is to call them a Nazi, to lower them in status, and to marginalize them. It's actually a very clever system. And then, get the Jews to think that only the American government will protect them from all these Nazis who want to kill them. I mean, it is actually very clever. And nobody even noticed. They're always complaining about Jewish power, but actually Jewish power is only supported by Gentile power through the American government and its global media. So if we understand the narrative in those terms, I mean, it just becomes clear what has happened.
This book is actually very short. It's only 93 pages, because the whole other 100-something pages of it is all endnotes.
Uh-huh. Oh, you must tell us.
Yeah, well, I'm going to read it,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to see what it's all about. But I do want to learn more about the creation of Israel and what actually happened over there, because I don't know how the Jews spin it. They must spin it some way that this was some kind of like nicey nice Hello Kitty takeover,
It could have been done without the British and the Americans, or even Hitler, because yes, Herzl wanted a homeland for the Jews, but at the time he wasn't that fussy. He was saying, well, maybe Uganda, maybe Birobidzhan, maybe wherever, and then hey, how about Israel after the war? And it's sort of like, oh, who's in charge of Israel? At the end of World War II, it's the British. Oh, the British, they might, pretend that they've won the war, but actually, they're so weak that they will, they have to grant all their colonies independence, because, the colonies just realize that they're not, rulers of the universe. They made some terrible mistakes during the Japanese occupation in Malaya, the fall of Singapore, all kinds of things. They made a lot of mistakes, military boo-boos. So after the retreat of the British, the Americans took over. And anyway, the British had basically retired all their battleships. They've given up. I mean, are there any more left? Let me just check how many British battleships there are. Do any British battleships still exist? Let me read that. After the Second World War, the Royal Navy's 4 surviving King George V class ships were scrapped in 1957, and Vanguard followed in 1960. All other surviving British battleships had been sold or broken up by 1949. So, it's all up to you guys now.
Yeah, I know. This is just I can't believe people even know how to build battleships anymore. I'm so surprised that there's anyone competent left. You know, everyone seems so
Yeah.
everyone seems so incompetent. I'm surprised that the government is running. I'm surprised we have electricity. I'm surprised that we have lots of things running because people seem so stupid that it just seems like it just seems that I'm shocked that I don't know who's running the country. I don't know who's running the infrastructure. I don't know who's like keeping it up and going, but you know, I don't think they can. I don't think the next generation can keep this up.
Yeah, which is why it is imperative that people acknowledge a problem sooner rather than later. And they're still thinking, oh, there's no need, everything will be all right. Let everything fall apart so we can rebuild. Stupid things like that, always told by, confirmed bachelors who think, they'll still be around to rebuild it or enjoy the fruits of that rebuilding. Yeah, they're also stupid. But it seems that the generations are, divided from each other. I mean, if you look at, the dissident right, they seem completely devoid of any guidance by the men of the previous generation. It's like they don't have fathers. They don't have any men from the previous generation prepared to advise them or warn them because I guess they're not on speaking terms with their fathers.
Well, and the older generation is just so not with it that it's impossible to talk to them.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's sort of like, why are you still using legacy media? You know, it's almost as if they're just going through the motions of keeping themselves informed. It's like, oh, I don't like, social media anymore. Um, so they're retreating into their own little world and not, particularly wanting to engage with the world around them.
Well,
And
they're dying out, but it's just not happening fast enough, and they're really destroying, whatever hope we have left, because, they're just upholding the establishment and, not revolting against it, and they don't want to revolt. And to be honest, they just want to die in peace. They just want to pass away with all their money and their car and their house and their boat and all these things intact, and that's all they really care about. And they don't really care about, revolution. They're too old
they
for
don't care
revolution.
about the next generation. That is the
They're
thing.
they're too old to care about fighting. They're too old to care about doing anything. They're all just going to their grave, but they're holding on to this country with their vote, right? I mean, they're
Which is why
keeping.
it is imperative that representative democracy be challenged. And nobody will do that either. Not even, Gen Z and um, the millennials. And they're not, it's like it's too sacred a cow. We're not going to challenge democracy because they're still hoping that, Trump will come riding to rescue them. And it's like, no, because I mean that's what they think, and most people can't even bring themselves to say they're going to support Trump. They're slagging him off and saying he didn't do anything for them, and you know, I mean, I didn't get the impression that I don't know, but I mean, it doesn't seem to be enthusiastic. But then, okay, how would I know anyway? I mean, because even I have to rely on news sources and media outlets to tell me what's going on, and there's just so many of them, right? Some one media outlet might say this, another might say another thing, and we don't trust them all, and you know. But I mean, and that is why it's so necessary for people to get the idea that God is above humanity, and there is some supreme authority that will just say stop. I order you to stop. you can't carry on like this, and otherwise we'll just get a cacophony of voices saying, do this, no, do that, no, and we'll just be, we will remain just as confused with all these choices, but by all these different voices telling us to do different things and wasting our time. I mean, the least they can do is simplify it and say, it's either A or B, X or Y, yes or no.
Yeah.
Because if it's any more complicated, the stupid people won't be able to make up their minds. That's why it's got to be simple, and that is why God makes things simple, whether you believe in Him or not. Good and evil,
Yeah, but simple people
heaven
don't
and
want
hell.
simple people don't want a simple God. Simple I mean, people who aren't simple don't want a simple God. Simple people want a simple God. And when you do this, you have this, fight between the intelligentsia and the average people.
Well, really, what needs to be done is to take the fight to the intelligentsia and have them fight it out. But they're not engaging. That is the problem. And they're not engaging for really quite dishonorable reasons, because, they're all these groups in their echo chambers, and they refuse to talk to each other. They think, oh, it's better, to just, kind of tweet in a shadow banned kind of way and not argue with anybody and not be opposed. And just, think everything's fine. I just posted my thing, nobody's disagreed with me, And it's like, well, actually, people kind of need to confront people, and these boomers need to be confronted. They need to be confronted because of their vote, because of how they've left things, how they, haven't done what they were supposed to do, and now they're just sort of pretending it's, not their problem. And we know why the government is protecting them, because, they're the people most likely to vote. But nobody will really say what they mean. They're all beating about the bush and refusing to even identify the sacred cows of the West. No, we want things to be simple. It has to be simple, or people will just remain as confused as they ever were. And if you want to, give it more nuance, yes, you can, to people capable of understanding these things. I mean, Jews, they can keep things simple, and they can also make it complicated, depending on the audience. But to have this overarching narrative is sort of like useful. Because, the whole idea is that rich or poor, male or female, people are supposed to obey these laws. That is the whole crux of the matter. They're supposed to obey the no-height laws. Nobody's saying, oh, rich people don't, but poor people do. And okay, people will say, oh, there's one law for the rich and another for the poor, and obviously, to address that situation, justice must be seen to be done. And this was something that judges understood, because they sort of knew that, they understood that if people lose trust in the justice system, they will overthrow it through violence. Because, what was the point of paying loads of money? A rich person wouldn't bother, suffering years of litigation and paying all those lawyers' fees and still thinking and think, oh, I'm not going to get justice at the end of this. No, I'll just hire a hitman and kill the person who's annoying me. So really, the whole idea is laws that are considered to be fair enough. And that is really the minimum standard that is required to keep people respecting the laws. And we don't have that because obviously people think that the people in charge don't deserve to be in charge because they're stupid and incompetent and crazy. And the solution to that is, oh, well, make it less stupid, less corrupt, and less crazy. I think I've summed it up reasonably simply. And oh yeah, and so in the end, it's all about the meaning of words. It's about the meaning of idolatry, the meaning of democracy, the meaning of justice, the meaning of matriarchy, the meaning of patriarchy, and what it really means. Yeah, and the meaning of theocracy. I mean, I actually think it can be done peacefully and legally. But obviously, I need someone to agree with me and be prepared to to argue with others about the integrity of the system and how it's going to work when it is finally adopted. It all rests on you, Vincent.
Yeah, well, I don't know. And these Christians are just so horrible. Like they're
so stupid.
Yes, they are stupid and hard to talk to and difficult to talk with.
There's no need to talk to them. It's like you're guilty of idolatry, and what are they going to say other than? I mean, the best they can do is, we're not guilty of idolatry if Jesus is indeed God. And then the next question is, how is Jesus God? And they have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And if people were determined and focused, their lies will come tumbling down like a house of cards. Except that the Jews and the Muslims are still a bit afraid of the Christians. I mean, it's almost unbelievable that these groups won't even talk about. Yesterday I was reading this essay of this Muslim who was discussing with Paul Williams, and he was saying the interpretation of the Hadith and the Quran, and we haven't agreed, and there were all these oppressive Muslim rulers who, blah, 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 and wouldn't let us have our rights and didn't really encourage, Muslims to even read the Quran. And obviously they won't know their rights if they don't read the Quran, but most people are lazy and stupid anyway. And then it was saying, how do we know if our ruler is corrupt? And this is actually on Twitter. And then they said, well, when they show open disbelief, because if our ruler is still praying and doing, Muslim stuff, then we shouldn't overthrow him unless they show open disbelief. And it's like, well, if they've legalized gay marriage, if they've, done all the things that are against, the pillars of Islam, then obviously they're no better than a non-Muslim. But they still don't dare to, even begin to identify these Muslim rulers. Just so much cowardice amongst the people that, Westerners find so scary. And those Jews, it's like they're not going to be talking to anybody about the no-hide laws. Probably because...
Some of them do, Claire. Don't say that none of them do, and they are.
Well, okay, who does? I mean, they're not going to be saying, "Oh, Christians are idolaters," You know, they'll just be going on in a sort of nicey way. And obviously, the only way that will make Westerners give up Christianity is for them to know that it needs to be replaced. And these Christians and these Muslims are you know, they're still, you know, holding back. Oh, we want you to be better Christians if you can possibly do that. And it's like, no, they can't. They can't. They don't believe in it. They can't believe in the Trinity. I mean, Khaled is saying things like that still. Did you hear him on his thing with Jay last night?
Who?
You know, Khaled was doing his thing about, oh, I don't know, marriage and, you know, that kind of thing. And he appeared on Luke Ford. So he had, I think, about, you know, 5 guests or 6 guests. You know, quite a few people kind of came to hate watch us. So that was quite interesting. And what happened? So Jay was saying, why are you trying to tell me what to do and change my mind? And I don't try to, you know, it's like, well, okay. I mean, okay. Fundamentally, I think Muslims need to be a bit ruder to Christians for them to even, you know, realize how hopeless it is. Because, you know, it's not going to come back through Christian nationalism. And also this, I think Twitter is bigging up Christian nationalism because it's basically, you know, the what was Mao doing? He the 100 flowers thing. So basically, Mao was let me just get the name right. 100 Flowers campaign, I think it was called. So Mao was saying, I want you to tell me what you think is wrong with communism, you Chinese people, because I want to, you know, make sure that you know, get the best possible government. And then all these Chinese people saying, oh, and they told him, and then they basically, the 100 flowers were cut down. So I think the future of Christian nationalism would be for, you know, all these sort of dumb groypers to out themselves as Christian nationalists, and they you know, kind of gather themselves into one group, and they you know, and expose themselves, and then the government will just crush them with a sledgehammer. I think that's a plan. Well, if I were running the deep state, I would be doing that. So the slogan,
they act nothing like Christians online.
Yeah, and they're stupid, and they don't even understand the Trinity or know anything about Christian history, or why the founding fathers separated the church from their state. They just don't know anything. So basically, the slogan was, "Let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 schools of thought contend," and then they were all cut down.
So he got everyone to write in and say what they didn't like, and then he killed them all.
Yes, let me just read the thing. The 100 Flowers campaign, also termed the 100 Flowers movement, was a period from 1956 to 1957 in the People's Republic of China, during which the Chinese Communist Party encouraged citizens to openly express their opinions of the Communist Party. During the campaign, differing views and solutions to national policy were encouraged based on the famous expression by Mao Zedong. The policy of letting 100 flowers bloom and 100 schools of thought contend is designed to promote the flourishing of the arts and the progress of science. The movement was in part a response to the demoralization of intellectuals who felt estranged from the Communist Party. After this brief period of liberalization, the crackdown crackdown continued through 1957 and 1959 as an anti-rightist campaign against those who were critical of the regime and its ideology. Citizens were rounded up in waves by the hundreds of thousands, publicly criticized and condemned to prison camps for re-education through labor or even execution. The ideological crackdown reimposed Maoist orthodoxy in public expression and catalyzed the anti-rightist movement. There you go.
How horrible.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
I don't think he meant to do it. I don't know. I think there is historians debate whether Mao's motivations for launching the campaign were genuine. Some find it possible that Mao originally had pure intentions, but later decided to utilize the opportunity to destroy criticism. Historian Jonathan Spence suggests that the campaign was the culmination of a muddled and convoluted dispute within the party regarding how to address dissent. So, historians disagree.
Yeah. Just messed up. That's messed up to get people to write in and then to kill them for writing in. That's pretty sick.
Well, I mean, Tiananmen Square was kind of like that. And I was talking to Jimmy Chen, and at the time, actually, at the time, I was also totally swept away with Western propaganda, and then later I thought, actually, it was it was a sign that the CCP had lost control. And so instead of sweeping them away from Tiananmen Square when they got a bit stroppy, they let they let them stay there, and more joined, and so Jimmy Chen was saying that they were actually killing soldiers, and the CCP was so timid that they didn't even do or say anything, and then finally they thought we really can't let this carry on, and we'll just have to make them go home, kind of thing. But yeah, even to this day, the 100 Flowers campaign is being disputed by historians.
Yeah, I know that those CCP people that you have on are just the CCP is just so innocent.
Yeah, I mean, they do say things like, "Oh, mistakes were made," and that kind of thing. So at least they admit that mistakes were made. I mean, I don't think Westerners actually admit any kind of mistakes. I mean, they're not even going to say Christendom ended in 1918, and so really we should abandon it because I mean the only way Christianity could be imposed is by totalitarian government and telling people that they only could have one religion, and if they didn't, they were going to get punished. Which was what was the case for many centuries until the French Revolution, when the people finally had enough. I mean, I know it's not the form of, it's not the history that you learned at school, but then the all kinds of reasons why why the government wouldn't trash Christianity too much, because they're not quite ready for Islam, right, in 1918.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's too much, isn't it? It's like, oh well, I mean, unless there was some foreign force that said, oh right, you lost the war, we've invaded you, and we're gonna impose our because it was basically a war between Christians in Europe, so nobody had overall control. But say if it was I don't know, China or Iran or India or somebody, and then they all well conquered and imposed their new system, then there would be a cutoff point. You would sort of know that something happened and it led to a change of the political system or something. But because it was sort of between Westerners who both had the same religion and whatever, I mean, I guess they could just say it was the good guys were the people who protected the Jews and the bad guys were the people who wanted to harm the Jews. But in fact, everybody hated the Jews anyway. But yet it's fundamentally opaque and dishonest. The English going on about, how anti-Semitic the Germans were. I mean, they're pretty anti-Semitic themselves. And so were the Americans.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, everyone was on board with that, but I just wish it wasn't like this. But I don't know if there's anything to be done, to be honest with you.
Secular coronism. You've
Oh,
got a
I guess
fan. You've got a fan.
Who's my fan?
Holger Ritter.
What did she say?
I love Vincent Bruno. Vincent Bruno is one of the coolest Advaita Vedanta Hindus that I know of.
Well, I'm not an Advaita Vedantist. I do believe there's differences between Advaita Vedanta and quantum mechanics, and I don't think they're the same thing. I think they're close, but not the same thing. But I can see how it's very convincing to people. I can, obviously people are convinced. People are convinced. They're more convinced of that than the Trinity. I can tell you that right now.
It's both idolatry. So
Well,
really,
that's the point. No, the point is that Advaita Vedanta is not idolatry. That's the whole point. That's why it's being mixed with Kabbalah, and Noahide law to be made for the Gentiles, because it's not idolatry. Really, I mean, it's monism, right? You're not denying the oneness of God, and you're not worshiping an idol. There's no idols in Advaita Vedanta.
well, it's a philosophy, isn't it?
It's a philosophy, but it's a pretty extensive one, and it's, one that's lasted the ages. Advaita Vedanta has not disappeared since its been invention, and it's growing in the West, and lots of people like it. So, it has to be addressed properly.
Well, if it can't be explained easily, then it won't have a hold on the minds of people.
Well, it has a hold on a lot of minds of upper echelon people and things like that, and it does. It has some hold over other people, and that makes them sympathetic towards Hinduism. And
Yeah, because I think they prefer anything. It's a kind of anything but Islam attitude.
Well, no, but Islam doesn't answer questions like that. So they, you can't
What
blame people.
questions? What questions do you want?
Questions about the nature between human consciousness and outside matter. It just doesn't deal with these types of subjects.
Why does anybody care about that? It's all,
well, because these are age-old the mind-body question is as old as the hills. It's much older than Islam. The mind-body question, much older than Islam.
Why do people even ask it? I mean, we have a mind. It's contained in our brain, in our body. So what? Why do we have to
Well, they do, Claire. I mean, if you're just going to act like people don't ask these questions naturally, then you're not going to really be able to deal with the question. And that's why I think that mixing Advaita Vedanta with Kabbalah and the Noahide laws is going to be more successful than just saying, don't think about that.
Oh, it's easily dismantled anyway. It's like, well, why is it useful? How does it help? We just want better government, or.
Well, but people are philosophical, and they're not going to stop philosophizing, and they're just not going to, give that up. So Islam doesn't fulfill them in this way, and Hinduism fulfills them in this way. And so, it's if you can't come up with an alternative, then the Jews are just saying, well, we'll just co-opt it. We'll just steal Vedanta.
Which Jews? Not the Orthodox Jews.
The ones that are mixing Kabbalah and Vedanta, there's Jews that are out there, but it's not like the Jews are saying Advaita Vedanta is idolatry.
Well, it's not going to actually work, because really, for to change people's minds, you need to make it simple so people can pass it on to other people. And if it's this complicated thing that requires hours.
Here's the thing, that if you're simple, you have the 7 Noahide laws and that's it. If you're complicated, you need Kabbalah and Vedanta.
Well, actually, there's a lot to learn in Islam if you're really interested.
Not about these types of non-dualism and this type of.
It's just speculative, and it leads nowhere. No.
Yeah, well, they have it at least.
What we should do, not whether weird things exist that nobody cares about.
Obviously, people care about it. It's not about weird things existing. It's about what is consciousness and things like that. And it's
why would anybody ask that question?
Well,
it's like,
why they are asking the question. You're
only pretentious people.
No, not pretentious people. This is something that the point is that the Jews are a little bit smarter by acknowledging that people are going to ask these questions and to incorporate it into the philosophy and to declare it non-idolatrous.
Can you name a Jew?
Well, the chief rabbi declared it non-idolatrous. So, I mean, yes, they're declaring it non-idolatrous for a purpose because they want to use it.
Well, the ones who declared it to be non-idolatrous, are benefiting from, I don't know, free trips to India and Indian hospitality, I suppose.
But why is Advaita Vedanta idolatry if it's just explaining the mind-body dualism experience? Why is that idolatry?
Because it's a distraction from really, worshipping the one true God, I guess.
But this might not even have anything to do with worship.
You're just wasting time speculating about something nobody will agree on, and on which there will never be sufficient evidence to persuade people one way or the other. You're just wasting time, asking dumb questions.
I think that using quantum mechanics to prove their position, is enticing and makes people feel that this is not speculation and makes people feel as though there's actually science behind this. And
this was what Jen Shaft did, right? She was going on about, quantum physics and, her thing. And she didn't get very far on it, did she? I mean, she was just using it to, in the hope of impressing.
Yeah, but there's lots of gurus. There's lots of gurus with millions of followers that are successful with it.
Can you name one?
I don't know any. You know that there's very
some YouTube guru person.
More than YouTube. I mean, these are people that you must have heard of. Sri Ravi Shankar, I think is the same as Sri. Is that he's the most famous one? Sri Ravi Shankar.
I
Yeah,
thought Ravi
Ravi
Shankar
Shankar.
was a musician.
No, Sri Ravi Shankar, the spiritual leader who has like millions of followers around the world. He's
Okay.
Art of Living. You've heard of Art of Living.
No.
Art of Living is the biggest one.
What do they do? I mean, they talk about quantum physics, do they?
When it's time to talk about Vedanta, yes, they do talk about quantum physics.
Well, I just, okay, maybe people want to
Well,
talk
I had to
about
look high and
esoteric
low
things so they can feel themselves
I
to
had
be
to look high
clever.
and low. I had to look high and low to find anything which disproved the connection between quantum physics and Hinduism and Advaita Vedanta. I had to search. I mean, there were hundreds of papers on the connections between the two, but it took forever, and it's very little. The difference between the two is very little. It's very slight. You have to be very astute, to even come across this information. But, all the rest of the information is making it look like, yes, quantum mechanics proves Advaita Vedanta.
Okay, I mean, you can say that, but it just means nothing to me, and people are not gonna, get up and do anything because of quantum physics or whatever. People are it's not going to
Well,
move
I
them to
know,
do
but I'm
anything.
saying that, Islam is not going to have the mechanism to absorb this, where the Noahide laws have the mechanism to absorb it. They're just going to go and, okay, we'll just add the Noahide laws to this, and you're fine, and keep practicing your Advaita Vedanta, and, spread it along with the Noahide laws across the earth. And, that's a lot better of a situation than telling them to change their religion to Islam when they can just keep all their Hindu knowledge and still be Noahides.
It's not really about creating these communities, but getting governments to adopt these laws. So really, you don't even have to talk to people who don't know.
Yes, you
Who,
do, Claire. They're getting ground support. See, this is the other thing. You don't believe in getting any kind of ground support or starting any kind of cults or getting involved in any kind of communities. Everything is top down. These people are working from the bottom up. They're working, well, they're working top down and bottom up. They're going into the community and trying to get people to accept these Noahide laws. They are going to government officials, but they're also going to the community.
I guess I just don't take them seriously because I've never met, a no-hide who was in any way serious or knowledgeable, that they're all crazy or stupid. So I guess that's why I can't take them
Well,
seriously.
there's more than people take Noahide more seriously than they take secular Quranism seriously. Somebody who doesn't have a single follower, to poo-poo something that has government support, in the state of Israel and America, and has 50,000 to 500,000 followers across the globe. That's a lot of people. I wish I had 50,000 to 500,000 followers across the
Yeah,
globe.
but the weak people who are just sort of not really, who don't really know, that it's not going to lead anywhere. Like this thing about um, restoring the Sanhedrin. And I was reading that Wikipedia entry, and then it said, the Haredim didn't just ignored the whole thing because obviously they knew that there was no point even talking about restoring the Sanhedrin unless it was under a Torah theocracy, and they knew that nobody would actually ask for a Torah theocracy. And so they got all the sort of stupid Habadniks who to take an interest in it. So this is deductive reasoning. It's like, okay, a good example would be somebody comes to you talking about a married bachelor. And just by the way he's talking about, married bachelors and married spinsters, that he hasn't got the faintest idea of what marriage means. or being a spinster or bachelor means. You can deduce by the way certain people are behaving or using words that they do or don't understand the meaning of of ideas, of words. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm. Okay, Claire, let me go. I have to go get ready. I have to go to my therapist.
Okay, I hope that's going well.
It is. It's going well.
All right.
All
Talk to
right,
you
I'll talk to you
soon.
soon. Bye.
Bye.